Hi, welcome to the Hollywood Bible. I'm Stan Harrington, and today we're talking about the spark, your spark. Is it still alive and glowing and burning as brightly and effervescently as it was the day you arrived? And for you new people, how do you keep it glowing so brightly? Well, we're going to tackle it today by talking about two things: focus and perspective. Now, what is focus and perspective? They're two terms that are commonly used in all forms of arts, but as I'm from visual arts, I will use storytelling or camera work to explain. Now, focus is what I'm aiming at. Am I aiming at a girl's face or a boy's face or someone's expression or just their eyes? Or is it a car or is it a tree? And perspective is how I feel about it. What's my opinion of it? Or what do I want the audience to think about it? Now, here's the clever thing. As a director or a writer or a photographer, you can actually change a person's feeling about something or their perception or their perspective by changing the focus, shifting the subject. And this is where art and life come together. Because art really is just a profound way of looking at life. And in life, our focus changes and our perspective changes when we realize the weight of what we're doing. What is it that we're doing? What I'm talking about is trying to make a career out of the arts. And it's enough to know that, okay, it's not enough, I beg your pardon, to know that it's the toughest job in the world to do. You actually have to live it to know what's coming at you. It's kind of like just reading about something and expecting to know how it's going to be. Like you can't read a book on swimming and know how to win an Olympic trial. It's hard enough just to float. I tell this to actors all the time. Don't just talk about the character. Get up and rehearse. It's in the doing. And the perfect example of that is a friend of mine who did a documentary. Actually, here's my director, Frank Cronin, who did a beautiful documentary called Rough Set, where he walked 500 miles from San Francisco to Los Angeles to raise awareness for homeless healthcare in Los Angeles. What struck me so profoundly was when he started to relate how his whole perspective on this had changed just in the doing of it. And we're talking about a guy who's military trained, so he's built for this, and he's young and he's fit. But until he actually did it, he didn't realize how profoundly difficult it was to live on the streets for an extended period of time and to keep that spark alive. And for actors, it's the same thing. Not to say that, the homeless experience is the same as being an actor, although some people would say that it is. What I'm saying is the principle is the same, is that you don't realize until you're in it just how difficult it really is. So keeping that focus and keeping that perspective requires a lot of inspiration to keep that spark alive. Now with Frank, what happened is he found that inspiration in the supporters and the social media that started giving money and pushing him and telling him and encouraging him to keep going. And with actors, where do they get that inspiration? Where do they find it and how do they create it? And when we get back from this break, that's what we're going to talk about. Where and how to find the inspiration to keep that spark alive. We'll be back after this. The Hollywood Bible is now available worldwide, guys, on Amazon, on Kindle and in paperback. But if you're like me and you don't really want to open up a device on a plane or in bed or on Hollywood Boulevard, get the paperback. It's got a little bit more information than the actual streaming series, and it makes a great gift if you know someone who wants to get into the business or be an artist. So fortify your soul, your spirit, yourself, and your dreams, and get yourself a copy of the Hollywood Bible, huh? Inspiration. Inspiration. Where do we find it? How do we find it? How do we keep that spark alive by using that inspiration? Well, let me tell you something, a little secret. We have the tools. They're right here. And I'll explain to you. All you have to do is remember to frame and reframe. Remember earlier on in the previous segment, we talked about how artists can change the way you look at things and the way you feel about things. So you have the tools to change the way that you feel about something and see something. As an artist, why not apply that to life? Life and art are the same. Art is just a reflection of life. Remember, it's just in a more profound way. So you take those tools and you apply them to life. Take, for example, somebody who's just met the perfect partner, but has had 2 divorces. You don't want to rely on hindsight's always 20/20 because you're happy now. You want to know how to deal with that situation when it comes up. And as an artist, because you have the tools, you should know when you're faced with a fire, you don't fear the fire. Don't stay behind the fire, otherwise you'll never get to that perfect partner. You've got to walk through the fire. That's where the development is. That's where the wisdom is. That's where the love is. That's where everything is. It's like a sportsman would say, pain is the purifier. Now, I'm not saying that you should welcome pain. I'm just saying don't fear the pain. Otherwise, your spark will disintegrate into the flames. Another thing that artists do is they're constantly using inspirational quotes that they keep putting on social media. And I'm sure everybody who's read them, you all know people and you go, yeah, well, they did that for themselves. But why? What is the secret behind that? That is because it resonated with something inside them. Again, it's another mirror. They already have that truth inside. They just heard somebody else reframe it. So if we have these tools, we have to be the people to reframe it. And this is what I'm getting at. We have the tools to find that stuff, to plumb that stuff. As artists, we know how to reframe a situation so that we can make a positive rather than a negative. Like the actor that goes on stage that's nervous. It's the same biological feeling they have when they go out on a first date, except they've framed one as a negative and one as a positive. You have the tools. You are your own inspiration. All you have to do is use the tools and apply them to life the way you do to art. We'll be right back.
Come join the Stella Adler family of great actors, writers, directors, and producers.
Stella Adler has produced the finest actors that we have today.
Brando, De Niro,
Selma Hayek,
Benicio del Toro,
Sean Astin,
Susan Sarandon,
Henry Winkler in The Fonz.
Warren Beatty. What more do you need?
We're very proud of what has been accomplished.
People come from across the United States and around the world to the Stella Adler Los Angeles.
It's a technique that you can actually learn. It's a technique that you can actually understand. It's a technique that's actually doable.
So we hope to see you soon.
They really know what they're doing.
So if you want to make a career out of being an artist, which is the goal, everyone wants to be a success, you have to maintain a laser-sharp focus. Kind of like when you're a kid and you have a magnifying glass and a piece of paper and you want to burn a hole. The sun's rays will not burn until they're brought to a laser focus. And that's how sharp we have to be. And we do that by maintaining a positive and healthy perspective. Looking at things and framing them and reframing them until they're an asset or something positive rather than negative, and being inclined to misery and being a wet rag, because nobody will hire a wet rag. Nobody will hire someone who's got this jaded attitude. I don't care how good you are, if you go into an audition as an actor with a jaded attitude, it'll permeate the skin. People want to hire that excited person, the inspired person with that spark that's nice and alive. And you do that by how you frame a situation and the experiences that we encounter along the way on our journey. Kind of like Thomas Edison. He said, I haven't failed. I just found 10,000 ways that something doesn't work. What a great way to frame failure. Instead of looking at it as a stop sign, he's looking at it as a detour sign. That's reframing the whole situation and taking that knowledge and making it an asset. Kind of like we were talking about nerves. It's the same biological feeling you get when you want to go on a first date as you do when you're scared about going on stage. But we make one a positive that we look forward to and the other one a fearful one. We are a walking tower of wisdom. Trust me, it's already in there. It's just how we framed or reframed it. And if you don't believe me, think of the last time you heard something that was inspiring or somebody say something that inspired you. And what was your reaction? I guarantee 9 times out of 10 people go, yeah, that's so true. Yeah, you're so right. And all I can think is, how do you know? How can you possibly know that it's true or right unless you have a reference for it? It's all in there, and we have the tools to dig this stuff up. We just have to step into our own power and accept things that way and frame them positive rather than in a negative way. Keep that spark alive, keep a positive perspective, and keep that focus laser sharp on the target. And in the end, I will quote an actress, Audrey Hepburn, who said, if you do need a hand, you'll always find one at the end of both of your arms. I'm Stan Harrington. Thanks for joining us on the Hollywood Bible. We'll see you again.